Welcome to Stories Beyond Borders, the podcast where culture, identity, and personal journeys come together. I'm your host, Urmi, and in each episode we sit down with voices from around the world to talk about what it means to belong, to move, to grow, and to find home. Whether you're a third culture kid, an expat, or someone redefining identity on your terms, these are your stories too.
Today I'm joined by Bảo-Vy Nguyễn, a community organizer and artist with a background in social work. Raised across Canada and Finland, V brings a global perspective to her work. She's the founder of Missing Blue, a grassroots initiative that uplifts cross-cultural voices and advocates for inclusion. Beyond her projects, she finds joy in nature, traveling, and creative pursuits. I'm thrilled to welcome her to the podcast. Welcome, V.
Hi, thanks for having me on your podcast.
Thank you for being here. So I want to start with the first question, which is, what is your story?
That's a huge question. I think it's something that I reflect on every other year, but maybe where to start in terms of my story, I'd say my story is very much defined by the concept of mobility and change. I think that has been like the constant of my life, in the sense that I grew up moving around a lot. So originally based and born in Montreal, but eventually expanded towards other areas of Canada, such as Ottawa. So that's where I lived for 2 years and did a lot of back and forth. So came back to Montreal again, and then left to Finland, which is on the other side of the earth, for a good year, and then traveled back to Canada and stayed in Vancouver. And now I'm finally in Montreal, and it's been for more than 10 years. So I'd say my life has been tainted, by a lot of moving, change, and not just across within the country, but also outside the country. So that's kind of a little bit of where I'm at. And because of so much change, I think there was a moment in time where I craved stability because of so much movements. But now I've reached a point where it's been too long that I've been staying in the same place, and I'm ready to embrace change again. So that's kind of how I see my story.
And the reason why you have moved a lot, was it for any particular reasons?
I was quite young when all of that happened, and so it's not something that was not my own decision. It's more my family. So my mother in particular, I think she herself, she says that if she had the chance to travel even more, she would. So I think she had that like natural instinct to explore the world. So it was more upon her choice, wanting to change the environment and explore her career and lifestyle beyond Montreal.
Yeah. So what caught my attention to you the very first time was I was looking at your page, Missing Blue, and there is this reel about you where you're talking to the audience, and you're saying about this question that we all hate, which is, where are you from? Do you want to maybe expand a little bit about that?
It's I think that question, it has been a very difficult one for me. Like, I've wrestled a lot with that question. There are times where I answer it in a short way and I'm fine, but there are times where when I think about it and reflect more on it, it's not something that's easy to answer, because I think at some point I find the answer to be just Montreal, Canada, and I'm content with that answer. But the more I dive deep into it, it's like identity is such a complex concept on its own. And for me, when I tell people where I'm from, there's already a bunch of assumptions. Like, some people are like, oh yeah, you're from this, but like, we want to know exactly where you're from. So it's never enough. Even my answer is never enough for certain people. So I don't know, it's a question that comes with more questions every time I answer. And I feel like once I answer it, I would have to stick with it for a good hour, because it's not something that I can answer so simply, because it comes with, having to tell my story, having to tell my background, the good and the bad things as well. And sometimes you're not ready to share that to the world or share that to just someone you just met. But yes, that's a very complex one, and I'm often met with, oh wow, like, why Finland? Because Finland is so out of the blue. I think that's where a lot of people kind of have like these big eyes when they hear the word like Finland, because it's like, oh, it doesn't make sense that you're from Canada and you're going to Finland. I think maybe if I chose to speak on another country, maybe that would have there would be other reactions, but Finland seems like such a niche place out of everywhere. So
it is niche if you think about it, because I mean, how many people do you hear moving to Finland out of nowhere? It's like, it's really out of the blue. And I can relate to what you have just talked about giving short answers when you're asked that question, or giving long answers, because it's a struggle that I went through as well. And I feel like our looks give it away, so this is why people are not like, they are doubting us. They doubt our answers, right?
Yeah.
Because the looks give it away. And I get what you're saying. So sometimes you end up telling the long story, maybe, but you don't want to, maybe like you just want to make it simple, like other people, you just want to have one answer and end it there. But sometimes it's not that straightforward, because I think as you reflect upon it, you feel like there are parts of your story that if you don't tell them, then you're not telling the full story. So I totally get that part. I totally get it. And my follow-up question to that is, where were you asked that question? Like, was this in Montreal, or was it as soon as you started to move?
I think this question, like, since I was like put into school, exposed to, people, it comes with those questions. So even if I'm in Montreal, anywhere I've been, I think I've been asked that question at least once. I think just the fact that, I'm Asian, I think people are already intrigued by that. They're like, oh, where are you from? Like, where are your families from? Like, not necessarily the fact that I'm a third culture kid that people bring that up. It's the fact that I'm Asian. And, in Montreal, as much as it's diverse, people still are intrigued. And there are times where, I speak French and people are like, wow, your French is really good. Like, are you from here? Like, where are you from? So it comes with, it's like I give an answer and there would be doubts or like strong, strong amazement from people. Like, wow, your English is really good, or your French is really good, or like, where exactly do you stand? And I think there's that desire from people to really box myself into something. So even if I gave an answer, even the long version, it's like people want to know, okay, but why did you go to all these places? Is it because your parents have a business here? Is it because your parents are diplomats? But I don't fit into even those categories. So again, it comes with so many more questions that sometimes I'm just not ready to just share.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I agree with you in that, and I think the problem here is that everyone comes with biases. So our looks is what people see as first, and unfortunately people don't think that we might speak French, for instance, because me too, I'm asked the same question. As soon as I say I'm from Montreal, people ask me right away, oh, so you speak French? But it's just like, why are people like, second guessing? Like, they make me second guess, or they start doubting, and I actually don't like that. And this happens especially when I go to Toronto and I tell them, oh yeah, I'm from Montreal. Because I've been living here, so I say directly I'm from Montreal, and all the time they ask me the same question. And my biggest problem is as soon as I move to Montreal, people will start to ask me questions such as, where are you from? And this is where the biggest struggle started when it came to my identity. Like, I felt like I really had to work hard to come up with an answer and to really find my own identity, because what happened is people would start to label me based on what they felt was right for me. And so that was one thing that I did not like. Sometimes people would tell me, oh, you're Bengali because, you know, your parents are from Bangladesh. Or sometimes they would tell me, oh, you're Italian because you're born in Italy, depending on who I had in front of me. So people were also labeling me, and I just didn't like that. So I agree a lot with everything that you said, and I can relate a lot with everything that you said, because I feel like as third culture kids, we just go through the same struggle, all of us. Yeah.
The question of identity, the question of where do you fit in, and I think for me it's very complex in the sense that with so much movement in my life, not only does it, like, from a geographic standpoint, but also I had to change schools quite often as well. Like even though I started off in Montreal and I headed other places, but I also came back to Montreal a couple of times. And because when I left Montreal, I left at quite a young age, so my foundation for French wasn't strong enough when I left, and my foundation for it was never strong. So when I decided to come back to Montreal, I was put into what we call like welcome classes, or like classe d'accueil. Right. And I went through those classes twice in my life. And so it was a weird place to be, because I would find myself technically as a Canadian citizen who somewhat has an advantage amongst my classmates in terms of speaking French, but still my French wasn't good enough to be put in regular classes. So there were times where we do a lot of activities for newcomers, like of why did you come to Canada? What is it about Canada that you love? Why Montreal? And then I'm here just feeling very confused and perplexed, because I'm like, yeah, I'm born here. I just happen to move around a lot. And it was very hard to connect amongst other immigrants, because for them it's like, oh, I came to Canada to build a better life for my family. And then me, I just don't fit into that narrative. So it was a very strange place to be, and going through that twice in my life. So I think that's because I really do believe, maybe you can add on to it, that each language brings a different personality to you. And I feel, despite most of my education was done in French, I feel the least confident speaking in French. Where else in English or Vietnamese, like, even though Vietnamese I learned mainly through my family, there wasn't any formal education around it. I feel that I can be very witty, very funny in Vietnamese, and English is where I'm very expressive and very creative and confident. But French, despite many years of education, learning the language, there's always a part of me that feels somewhat insecure and has that self-doubt. And maybe it's because, if I think about it, I think it's the fact that my relationship with French is done in a space that is very unstable, like being in welcome classes, people doubting my French because it's never good enough. So maybe there's some sort of internalization in that sense. But yeah, I find languages super interesting, and I'm still trying to figure out, like, why all of that is happening.
So you spoke about, always moving around, because I had a similar upbringing as well. Like, I was born and raised in Italy, so I was born in Sicily, and then we moved around a lot during my childhood. We moved to the north of Italy, then we went to the UK. This is where I learned English. Then we came back to Italy again, and every time I found myself changing schools, changing homes, making new friends, and it was tiring, especially because you are a child and you're becoming a teenager, and you always want to have the same group of people no matter where you go. But me, I always found myself making new friends and meeting new people, and And so in that sense, I can relate to you. And then in terms of language, so at home, we spoke Bengali. So I learned Bengali through my parents, a little bit like you learned Vietnamese through your parents. And I brought Italian at home because that was the language that I learned at school. And in Italian, when I'm speaking Italian, I feel like I'm my most self. I'm able to connect better to that side of my identity. So I understand when you talk about, how you feel about English and how you feel about Vietnamese. I totally get it. So it's very interesting. I also find languages are very, very, very interesting in that sense. And I want to ask you, you were talking about your experience at, in this welcome classes. Did you have someone to talk to, or were you ever speaking about this with your parents or with your mother? Did you have any kind of mentor or support, someone that you could openly express how you were feeling or what you're going through?
Not necessarily, honestly, even though it comes with some challenges, kind of like what you mentioned, how you weren't able to find a group of friends that you stick to because of so much change and movements in that sense. For me, I think I moved around so much, I changed school so quickly that I think at some point I started believing that's kind of the norm for me. That's kind of normal. That's my normal. Even though I think eventually with time, that's when I'm like, oh yeah, maybe it's not so normal to move around this much. But I think I was on those my natural reflex is that, oh, okay, we're moving again. That's fine. Or, yeah, we're moving again, but that's kind of what I'm accustomed to, what I'm exposed to. So I never really much questioned it, but I know that there was a time where my mom was thinking of moving again. And a part of me was like, Mom, can we just stop? I think we need a moment to sit with where we're at and rethink about this before moving again, because I think that's when that was when I was still in welcome class, and I was about to transition into regular class, and just like that, the idea of moving again was proposed. So I was like, I don't want to go through this again. I'm done. I'm done for good. And there was a moment where I just crave stability or just stay somewhere, because for me, whenever I change countries or change school, my family or no one really prepared me for it. So you know how usually, let's say you change from primary school to high school, people tell you in advance that you're about to change school, that it's going to be difficult, that there's these transitions that are to be expected. But for me, every time I changed to another country, to another city, to another school, these talks of preparation were never there. So that's something that I wish I had, or people took the hint and did something about it. But I think that was just my norm, my lifestyle, and so I never really much questioned it or never think of how much of an impact it could be until a little bit later on.
Yeah, I understand how you feel. No one prepares you about all these, changes in life. And I feel when they happen when you're young, you just go with it. You think it's normal. You don't question anything. And it's even worse because no one prepares you about this whole changes that are happening. You're constantly changing places, countries, city, homes, and it's difficult. It's very difficult. I agree with you. And I want to know, how was your experience in Finland? How long did you stay there? Did you like living there? Because it's like you said, it's out of nowhere there is Finland, in your whole life story. So I want to know what was your experience like over there?
For me, funny enough, despite living there for almost a year, it's this out of all the place I've lived growing up and during my childhood, that was the place where I spent the less time. However, I think it was one of those places that really stood out to me. For some reason, Finland is something that I connect to something as positive. So when I was living in Finland, I did go to school there and also join like a welcome class. I don't think they call it welcome class there, but basically it's also similar concept for newcomers. And I got to connect with, kids from around the world, some in other parts of Europe. I made a friend from Italy, and I really bonded with the people there, even though it was like short-lived. But what I think stood out to me when living in Finland was how much freedom and independence I have. Because just to put into like a cultural context, back then when I was living in Finland, it was very, it was kind of normal that young kids just take the public transit or were given that independence. Whereas when I was in Montreal or other places in Canada, being that young and taking the public transit would be not necessarily frowned upon, but it was something that people would say, be careful because you're too young, you need a parent. But in Finland, it's like, oh, if you're, 8 years old and you head out downtown alone, it's fine, it's pretty safe. So I think the safetyness that I felt in Finland really made me feel that I have a lot of freedom and independence, and I really like that aspect of Finland. And Finland was very different from any other places that I lived, in the sense that the education system was very unique on its own. Like everything was free for the most part. So very different culture, very different social policies that makes up the living conditions in Finland. So it's weird because despite spending the least time there, for me, I feel very connected to Finland for some reason, and it's a place that I would love to revisit again.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'm assuming you don't go back to Finland for any reasons, right?
No, I have yet to come back to Finland. But the thing is, I do have, maybe you can relate to this, even though, yes, I moved around a lot, my extended family members were also a little bit everywhere. So I have family, of course, in Montreal. I also have family in the States. I know some very extended family members that I have yet to see. I believe they're also in Australia and in Finland as well. So that's kind of like the entry point, or what made my family gravitate towards Finland, is that we have extended family members that live there that encourage us to visit them, and then one thing led to another. So, and then of course Vietnam, where most of my family are still based. So yeah, we're kind of dispatched a little bit everywhere.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to you even on this, because even when I moved to UK, I lived there for a year, and I was also part of a welcome class where they were teaching us how to speak in English, and it was very interesting because it was my first time being exposed to so much diversity, because I did not have that diversity in Italy. So once I was in UK, I had friends from South Asia, I had friends from other parts of Europe, so it was very interesting, and I kind of like that. So I had a very similar experience as you, and I also have extended family in the UK, and now my parents live in the UK. They moved there eventually, they went back to the UK. So I want to touch upon two more things. I want to talk about you're the founder of Missing Blue. I want to ask you a little bit about the meaning behind this and what it is all about.
I think Missing Blue starts from a very personal place, from my personal story. But at first, the name itself, originally it was just a conversation that sparked between me and my friends, close friends, and me and my two other friends. What connected us is the fact that we're all third culture what are her thoughts about, moving to another place. I had a friend, she was living in Montreal at the time when I met her, but she felt confused on whether to move again. So this question of like moving and changing careers, but also not just changing careers, but changing the location of where you want to expand your career is a very, I feel like, common theme within the conversations that I have with my my third culture kids friends. And so yeah, we bonded through, this idea of like maybe building community, building something. But back then it wasn't necessarily targeted towards the third culture kids. It was just more the idea of building community for people in Montreal. But yeah, both of my friends, they weren't able to continue on this project. One left Montreal, the other had other things to focus on, but I still grasp and really believe firmly on this idea of building community, especially coming from a background like social work, where I'm very intrigued about people's stories and finding ways to make spaces for others, for people to feel seen and heard and included. And so I kept the original name of it being Missing Blue, just to extend that conversation. And I realized that in places like Montreal and other bigger cities like Toronto, just across every other country, there is an international hub that, diversity isn't necessarily something that is visible, but it's also invisible. So people who have a lot of, third culture experience, it's like invisibly we're going through so much change, but that is not obvious for people. And so I decided to try out, like the first attempt was to do a workshop just to see, who are the people who will show up and if there's an interest to build a workshop around the theme of identity and belonging. And so after that first workshop, which was done like a year and a half ago, people mentioned about like, oh, it would be super interesting to have more of these spaces for people to connect who have similar backgrounds. And so that's when I thought to myself, okay, I think I need to continue this. And I know throughout my life, I've always gravitated towards making projects, building projects around community, but I just never knew what the framework would be like or what would be something sustainable. And I felt that because of my background, being a third culture kid and what I'm studying in, it's just a perfect match for that. So yeah, that workshop also led to a second workshop. And now we're on to doing a photo series project, a campaign to again highlight the stories and realities of cross-cultural individuals and even more specifically third culture kids, because even though I was able to meet a lot of third culture kids throughout my life, in the media or in programs and services like mental health and whatnot, it's not something that's prominent or discussed as much, yet it is a reality amongst many of us. So I think the idea behind Missing Blue, there's two things. It's not just about creating space for others to connect who feel maybe isolated in their experience, but the second one, and something that I value a lot, is to bring to light these realities so that people start noticing it and do something about it and support. Because I think something that you mentioned and I shared was the lack of support throughout these transition. Was there anyone? Were our parents equipped for these conversations? Were the people, our peers and the schools, educators, were they even equipped to support us through that? And a lot of it is not really. So that's kind of the end goal or the aim of building such projects, is just to connect people and educate people on these realities.
Yeah, and I think whatever you're doing, it's beautiful, because me too, I also look for this kind of organizations and support groups where I can find people that I can relate to, because like you said, it's a reality, but not everyone can relate to what we go through, especially if they're not third culture kids. So keep doing what you're doing. I think this is going to be something very, very good for the future third culture kids and for any person who's multicultural.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's just to expand beyond the common narrative that we know of like cross-cultural individuals. I think a lot of the time in these spaces we hear a lot of like refugees, asylum seekers, or BIPOC, which are very important, and it's important to educate ourselves on that. But I think it's also time to challenge what does diversity look like, and I think among diverse realities, third culture kids are one of them.
Yes. So as we're basically approaching the end of our conversation, my last question is, and very briefly, I want you to tell us what is the message that you want to leave the listeners with today?
I think a message that I would like to leave, I think sometimes it's easy to think about the negative part of like feeling alienated or feeling not seen because of our background. But I think something that became a grounding force for me is seeing alienation not necessarily as something negative, but also as strength. Because throughout time, the fact that I've been told that I'm different or unable to fit in, that gives me the chance to really be authentic to who I am, because it doesn't come because my life has not been under the expectation to fit in. It has been under the expectation to not fit in and being different. So I try to embrace that and just assert myself, whatever that means. So I think there's beauty. Of course, there's challenges in feeling different, but it's also recognizing how much power you have in being different, because there's less of that expectations to fit in. So yeah, that's kind of the message I want to.
It's a beautiful message, and I love it. I love being authentic, and I also love this whole thing about not fitting in. That's what makes us unique and different. So V, thank you so much for coming today. Before I let you go, do you want to tell us how people can connect with you?
Yes, for sure. So I think kind of to connect with the initiative Missing Blue, if ever you are interested in learning more about the projects, like I shared, we're currently working on a visual campaign that's about to be launched soon. So do follow our social media. So for Instagram, you can find us on missingblue.co. And then we're also on Facebook. So just search Missing Blue and you should find us. So yeah.
Thank you, V. Thank you for coming today. And for all the listeners out there, thanks for listening to this episode of Stories Beyond Borders. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, home isn't always a place. Sometimes it's a story. Until next time, keep crossing borders and telling your story.